Introduction to Windows. Our main objectives is to be able to describe the purpose and function of an OS, identify the features of the Microsoft OS itself, and compare and contrast the various versions from 7 up to 10. Obviously, our key things that we're going to be able to review are the main functions of operating systems. As we know, operating systems provide a user an interface to be able to manage files, manage their hardware or applications. IT professionals must be experts, at least within the Windows realm, on most of its features. Although they move everything around, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, all of them have pretty much the same features per se for when it is administrative purposes. A computer features will differ dramatically depending obviously on the Windows system that has installed. Some features that are on 10 or 8.1 obviously are not in Windows 7. How do you explain the purpose in OS to somebody who is not tech savvy? Anyone? Wild guess there. At the same time, guys, Windows operating system, as I said, has changed multiple times over the few decades. When we had Windows 3.1 was the sneaker net that I talked about. Prior to 3.11, Windows 3.11, we didn't have Windows for networking. Windows for networking was obviously a great thing. We were able to finally be able to communicate from one computer to the other without actually having to put in that floppy disk to be able to run from one desk to another to send a file. Compared to now, with ease, we could even share within Google Drive, Microsoft, what's that Microsoft's drive called? OneDrive. You have many different types of applications available that give you these resources. So what is an OS? Pablo, if you could read that out for us.
First, what is an operating system? OS definition: an interface between a computer and a user. It manages the computer hardware and files while providing an environment for applications to run through, either a graphical user interface, GUI, or a command line interface, CLI.
Mm-hmm. So as we see here, does anybody know what a CLI or GUI is?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes,
I
we
do.
I said, okay, go ahead.
No, I know the command line interface is like in the background. I'm not sure if you would call them like legitimate or literal commands. I guess those are the things that run in the background that pretty much dignify how everything works. Or unless it's just the actual command prompt thing.
Correct. CLI or command line interface. And there's also one more command line interface. Does anybody know what's Windows' new command line interface?
PowerShell.
PowerShell is another way to get into it. It has much more and on purpose, they color it blue, and it says PS when you go into it compared to your DOS. These are the two shells that are out there to allow you to basically, as close as possible to what we consider machine language, control the PC. There is no major GUI interface. Everything in here is in text. Nothing in here can I go and just go click a button and press here, press there. No. None of that exists in this world. You must know what you're doing, and you must know all the commands that are administrative ones that we will be covering throughout these chapters. The GUI, what's the GUI?
What we're using right now, it just means graphical user environment or input.
Interface, yeah.
Just, or interface, yeah.
So basically, it graphically makes a picture for the user to be able to do it. For instance, in a CLI, I can actually go copy and paste from one to another, and it requires me to go and actually type it. Versus in this little GUI interface, with ease, I could actually copy one thing to another just by hitting copy and paste. Inside the CLI, you would need to know exactly the whole full directory that you're going to and from to be able to copy. But you do know that almost basically anything that you can do with a graphical user interface, you should be able to do in the CLI, because the graphical user interface is actually translating it into those commands. So, like I stated a minute ago, Windows has many different types, and there is also many different types of Linux and obviously other OSs out there like Mac OS. So with all these different types of changes, what behavior skill will you need to be able to demonstrate to adjust to the additional changes that are obviously happening in the future? We're always going to have to adjust. So what behavior skill can I use to be able to adjust to all those different given situations or operating systems? What behavioral skill or mindset, sorry, that's what I wanted to say.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Due to that, Windows operating systems has changed and will continue to change most likely. The same thing with Linux. There's so many different operating systems of Linux. Mac OS, there's many Mac OS out there. What behavior skill or mindset will I need to demonstrate to be able to adjust to these additional changes that will obviously inevitably occur in the future? What can I use?
Adaptability.
We all agree adaptability is a must. Growth mindset is also another thing that I need, right? To continue to challenge myself with those new operating systems and wherever they moved everything, because God only knows. In Windows, they just like to move things. It's the exact same thing. If I want to go set up a printer, they just moved it from one location to the other. It's still inside the control panel. God only knows, obviously. The start menu is not the same.
Resistance as well.
Correct. So let's imagine that you graduate from Generation and are hired as an IT professional by a company you love working for. Now, you're doing a great job supporting the team in Windows 7. Then suddenly, your company announces that it's going to adapt to the new OS from Microsoft that's coming out. So in other words, Windows 10 finally came out and they tested it in their environment. How will you ensure that you will continue to offer the team the same great support? Your company is using Windows 7. You became an expert in Windows 7, but now corporate decided we're rolling out Windows 10. We're ready for Windows 10, and the whole global company is going to be on Windows 10. What can you do?
You gotta start studying, pretty much. Learn Windows 10 to the best of your ability, if not just as well as you knew Windows 7.
Right? Start learning. Maybe reach out to my supervisor, see if there's any formal training from the company that's going to show us how to integrate Windows 10 to the current domain, and what is the documentation maybe that we can read, or whatever it is that they have from corporate. Any questions or doubts on OS adaptability and or obviously being prepared for the inevitable, which is obviously going to be to learn and continue to learn all these new ones. Future orientation is another issue that we will run into if we're not prepared for the future and obviously have something in plan for ourselves. So I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm pretty sure you guys have heard it in the movie, and that's the kernel. Oh no, the kernel's been overtaken. You are no longer in control compared to the shell. The OS is always made of two things. The kernel is the guy that's always talking directly machine language, as close to zeros and, actually it does translate to zeros and ones, all of the commands that you're doing on the shell. The shell is like, you could think of it as like a peanut. The shell is the outside, is what the visual representation of the peanut. You will recognize the little shape of a peanut, right? While the kernel is in the inside. He is the one where it grabs everything from the shell, and he's able to then process the information and send all the commands to the hardware devices. One does not work without the other. There's no way that I can actually be inside the kernel doing these commands without the shell obviously providing that. The worst thing is, as they say in the movies, the moment someone is controlling your kernel, if you didn't know it, it does not require any permissions. The shell requires all permissions because the shell would be within the OS. Versus the kernel, it's already in machine language and it's not dealing with any of the other layers of the application up there. Key thing is the difference from that and the other. Any questions? I could reread the exact verbatim, but I'm pretty sure you guys can read that. That's just like any questions on a kernel or the shell of an OS? Doubts? You sure? I dropped. You guys here?
Yeah, I'm here. The example, it helps out too.
Yeah, exactly. So if the OS was in a restaurant, that's a good example too, right? The shell is the actual staff that waits on you, and the kernel is the cook that's inside. You never see the kernel. You don't talk to the kernel directly, do you? You don't talk to the cook directly. Talk to the waiters, you talk to the hostess. You don't never speak to the kernel directly. So there's 4 broad OS categories. You got the server, you have a workstation. We're all familiar also with our mobile and our cloud-based OSs. Anybody can tell me which was the cloud-based OS that they probably dealt with?
I guess that would be OneDrive in my workplace, and then a shared drive as well that goes to the corporate cloud when I was working for Marriott.
Well, Cloud OS is a kind of a lightweight operating system. You can understand. It that stores data and can access web applications from a remote server. Designed to manage the operation overall, execution, and processes of virtual machines, virtual servers, virtual infrastructure, your back-end hardware and software in a cloud environment. I think, I'm not sure, is Azure one of them? No. Can't remember which ones are out there, very famous ones. I can tell you all of them. But there is obviously several that you can look out there. Any questions on a server, a workstation OS, a mobile OS, or a cloud-based OS? clouds.
Are there any more examples of cloud-based OSs?
We can look up the OSs out there, and we basically, like I said, it's mainly on the cloud. So that means you could think of it almost like a virtual desktop. It's the best way I can tell you, but there is many of them out there that that sell these services. Look up to see which ones are out there. Yeah, found some. Of course, this thing didn't just jump everywhere. So you have, anytime now, Mega OS. You can see it offers account manage, register, logging, application users, file manager. It's like a regular, almost like a server kind of thing. Manager services, launching, listing, ending processes. This guy here is, what's his name? V-Star, same thing. Device management, diagnostics, operating system, everything on the cloud. Nothing is in your computer. Lucid OX. So these are all the providers that are out there available for you. Zero PCs and advanced. See, this one's like the one that we heard before, those virtual desktops where you have a PC that you're using in the cloud. Any other questions on it? Everybody understand what a server is then? No problems? Workstation and mobile. The only one pretty much new that they just mentioned here would be the cloud base. Everybody agree? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Thank you. So, what are the main functions? Christina, if you can help me out with this slide.
Main functions of all operating systems. Every operating system shares the four main functions. 1. Providing a user interface, a visual representation of the computer on the monitor that makes sense to the person using the computer. 2. Manages files, enables users to add, move, and delete programs and data. 3. Manages applications, allows users to run, use, and shut down programs. 4. Manages hardware, communicates with the hardware of the PC.
Thank you. Any questions on these four, which is obviously providing the user interface, which is I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with a user interface. It's a little GUI representation that allows you to navigate from here to there, as we see here, the start menu and the whole Windows itself. Manage files, as we saw earlier, where I go into the file manager and I'm able to copy files, delete files, move them from one location to the other. I can uninstall, install applications within my computer with ease with the shell. And lastly, it manages hardware. As we know, we can go into the device manager itself, update the drivers, disable any card that we want within the computer, and or troubleshoot any of the devices that are installed. These are the four major functions that an OS will give you with a computer. Most used operating systems right now, I'm pretty sure everybody's fully aware, Microsoft has pretty much eaten up the majority of the pie. It looks like Pac-Man there. The second one is the OS X. Anybody know who is OS X? Except for Pablo?
Apple.
That was like a huge hint, huh? Yes, that is correct. That is Apple. The next one is Linux. Although there's so many flavors, it does not compare still to these two big ones. And lastly is other, like Unix, and other operating systems that are out there. Any
I'm
questions?
surprised Apple has a big chunk.
Who?
I'm surprised Apple even has a chunk when it comes to.
And
Oh, this is
thank you
referring
for
to
that
all
question.
OS, right?
Actually, that question, yeah, these are all, huh?
This is referring to all OS or servers.
These are the most used operating systems.
Okay, so this is
OS.
more of like workstation.
Yeah, Microsoft Windows, OS X. It doesn't say anything here about servers yet. Now, it may surprise you, but whoever is an Apple user will tell you that it is a better machine than a Windows PC when it comes to graphical stuff. If you look anywhere where they're doing graphic design, editing videos, doing major things that has to do with graphic stuff or audio, I bet you 9 out of 10 times is going to be a Mac. And that is why, one of the reasons why they're still pumping out there. Mac OS is still being utilized a lot by these people due to the, obviously, the great performance that it gives them. Any questions or doubts on the 3 major OSs that are eating up the pie here? Obviously, we're coming up to this section right now. To be able to compare operating systems, I believe you're going to need that handout right about now. You will be organizing the information you're going to learn in the handout, recording the notes of each feature in the handout as it pertains to each 4 systems we discussed. From some features, obviously, you'll write maybe NA because it's got nothing to do with that particular OS, but whenever we're talking about the variances of the 7, 8, 8.1, and 10, we want to make sure that we're able to write that so we don't go crazy. Obviously, Windows has been around, like I said, since the 80s, I believe. I'm not sure if I know the DOS was before that, but I believe 80s was when Windows came out, from what I remember. Lastly, XP, which was the one that they hung their head on for almost 8 years, was succeeded by Vista, which was quickly replaced. I don't think many people liked Vista. Next was Windows 7, which lasted for a plethora of years. Even when Windows 8 came out, many people refused to use the 8 because of the fact that it was nothing like Windows. It was more for like a tablet PC than a Windows PC. And that's why 8.1 came out, was to obviously to alleviate that issue of compatibilities and users crying about the issues that they were having and limitations. Does anybody know who is the Metro?
That's Windows 8.
Is correct. It's that wonderful feeling that they had where the start button was gone. Should have seen everybody's face when that start button.
It was awful.
I hated it. I agree.
Going? Jesus, where am I gonna go? But it was the worst idea they ever came up with. At the same time, whoever that guy is, I'm pretty sure he got promoted real quick. There's several features that come in Windows 7, 8, 8.1, and 10 that basically are in pretty much all of them. You have your desktop, you have an Explorer, you have support tools, you have your 32-bit versus your 60-bit, 64-bit, operating systems. You have your security tools, event viewers, and lastly, your Ready Boost. Anyone ever heard of Ready Boost?
I'd say that I have. I think I've seen it before, but I don't know what it is.
No one?
Yeah, I've seen the name, but I don't know what it is.
Isn't Ready Boost in like a way for you to no, that's Rapid Boost, right? I'm confusing it with having a flash drive or some external device to increase your swapping.
Ready Boost is that. You just hit it on it. It's a USB stick that you use as RAM. instead of a swap file. The swap file we said is on the hard drive, right? So that is the major difference, or what is ReadyBoost itself. Everyone know what a desktop is? What is a desktop? Anyone?
The desktop and in the sense of operating systems.
Mm-hmm. In an
Could just
operating
be-
system, what's the desktop?
Wouldn't it be like the entirety of kind of like the system apps and whatnot?
This is your desktop, right here.
Oh,
This
yeah.
right here. This window here in the back, mine doesn't have any pictures or anything, but that is your desktop.
Mostly holds like our applications when we want to use them.
The what? I'm sorry?
Has like majority of our applications on them.
No. Your desktop is this here. Can you see my desktop now? It's all black.
Yes.
This is your desktop. Usually you have maybe folders here or other things.
Yeah,
on
applications and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you may have shortcuts. For instance, this guy here, you might have that guy or this guy, or your recycling bin on your desktop. This is your desktop. Questions or doubts on a desktop? Okay. Explorer. Everybody know who Explorer is?
Yes.
Which is Explorer?
Explorer is your operating system file system. It's where you can explore files.
Correct. Here's your Explorer. Not your Internet Explorer, but your actual Windows Explorer will let you navigate, as you said, either internally on your computer, or if you have map drives or OneDrive, you'll be able to get to those too. If I had a map drive to a actual server, I would be able to access it through here. What are my support tools? Anyone?
Is it like defragment or like those type of things?
Yeah, your support tools will be anything pretty much that's in the control panel, right? That's, you have this, you have regedit, you have MMC. All of these allow you to, depending what you're trying to do, your administrative tools, backups, BitLocker, file explorer options, devices and printer. I can access any of my stuff that I want from here. Windows file, troubleshooting, user accounts, all of this with ease from here. The same thing, if I need to go and mess with the registry, I can mess with the registry if necessary. MMC is Windows' little tool where you can actually configure and add to yourself any snap-in. What's a snap-in? Well, just like I told you, all those tools that you just saw a minute ago, I can with ease create one window and put the stuff that I want in here. This is my local computer, or if I want to be able to control a server, I can hit another computer and search for it. Hit finish. I'm going to put only 2 of them in here. And with ease, obviously I'm not an administrator of this computer, I should be able to go in and look at all my tools. Task scheduler, event, shared folders, local users, performance, all that is in here. Any questions? What is a 32 bits or 64-bit?
The type of OS?
Mm-hmm. And what does that tell me? Exactly. Well, what's the variance between 32-bit and 64-bit operating systems?
How fast they could process?
Okay, what else?
What type of applications it could support?
Okay. What else? I can make much bigger partitions. I can utilize much more memory than a Windows 32-bit operating system, right?
Yes.
Okay. So those are some of the key features and differences from a 32-bit operating system and a 64-bit. The main one is the 4 gig memory on a 32-bit operating system, and obviously on a 32-bit operating system. Does anybody know how big can my partitions be on my hard drive? Remember the UEFI, I'm sorry, the MBR versus the new partitions? Anyone? No one? So we know that it's 4 gigs, right? We also learned it was 2 terabytes, right? Was it 2? I was going to say 2 gigabytes, but I think it's 2 terabytes is the largest that a 32-bit operating system will allow. Those are the features we need to know and what's happening. Obviously, we also need to know that it's going to impact the actual applications that we're going to be able to install. Security tools. We saw that a minute ago, right? I can go and change inside here my sharings. If I want to come in here, I can say who can come in where, who has full control versus who has maybe read, write access. The same thing. I can say who the users are, what are the groups that I want to put inside this computer. Event viewer. You want to know what the event viewer is? No one knows.
It's like the log.
That's correct. It's like a log, correct? It's event logs for local or remote machine, depending on what you're looking at. It gives you all the logs in here. So if I come in here and I want to go into, again, maybe into MMC, it was snapping. Should be able to find that guy in here. Here he is. Say that I want to see my computer. Okay. And in here, you have everything that a SIM usually has. You're going to have your application, security issues, setup, system, forwarded events. All of these are in here. Usually, if you're having problems and want to see what's going on, the event viewer with these should be, if you have rights, it looks like obviously I don't have security rights, so it's not going to let me see any of that. I don't have admin rights to this PC. You should be able to see all the events, be informational, be a risk of security, whatever it is, it should be able to identify it with ease in there. And we already mentioned Ready Boost. All right, so let's go to Windows Desktop. The Windows Desktop obviously is a primary tool provided by Windows Shell. That is the main thing that everybody always sees. As I said, as soon as you turn it on, that's what's there. You can customize it with pictures in the back, do whatever you want with it, make it your own. Obviously, in a lot of these companies, sometimes they lock you out. As you see on mine, it's completely black. There's nothing I can put in my background, but there is the options, obviously, in your own. The main things that are in there, you have a start menu, except for Windows 8, God only knows. It's a start screen instead of a start menu. You have pin and unpinning. What's pinning and unpinning? Anyone?
Isn't that when you can put an operation or app in your taskbar or your start menu?
That is correct. You can pin things to your taskbar, or you can ping things to your start menu. So it's here on the start menu on the top. That's what they mean by pinning and unpinning. What are gadgets? One of the worst things, and it eats up so. I think they even got rid of it in the new one. In the Windows,
Yeah,
the new
they
Windows.
don't support it. You can still use it, but they're not really supportive.
Gadgets was a little thing sometimes that you can see. It had like a little speedometer here, or it gave you your stock, or it gave you weather, it gave you the world time. It was like a little window to the internet. But the thing is, that little gadget was continuously communicating, creating a lot of problems with users who didn't realize that when they installed these gadgets, it continuously kept on updating. So if you had the little gadget for the news, and it kept on bringing the news for you from Bloomberg or something like that, then guess what? That ate up all of your thing. Your phones also have gadgets. You probably notice if you have like the little window with the weather on the top of where you are locally, or any of the other features that they have inside these phones, they still have it in the phone. But as for Windows, they pretty much got rid of it and are no longer supporting it. Obviously, I believe there is still some way of installing it in Windows 10, but I wouldn't recommend obviously using that. It's not supported. Anyone know who's Arrow?
Just the fancy looking on the windows. You know, like little tab, you can like see through it, the little glass thingy. It's just like a artistic kind of thing.
The what? I'm sorry. Repeat it again.
Just
So everybody heard
artistic.
it, 'cause it broke on mine over here.
Sorry, I have a lot of noise in my area.
Like the style of that Windows 7, I think it is. Like the little windows are clear on the top.
Correct. On the top, the bar. So I can, instead of being gray, it's see-through. Kind of. Right? And it was actually introduced, I think it was either Windows, was it 7? No, it was Vista's the one that was right before, right? Yeah, Vista, because it was after XP. So it was, I think it was Windows Vista was the one that had the Arrow glass, Windows Arrow, whatever you want to call it. What are charms? Windows charms.
It looks like a tablet. That's the best way I can describe it. Basically, its interface is very
Windows
comfy.
8 beautiful interface, right? Kind of thing. If there's a way I could remember it.
Yeah.
Right? I think I have it here too still. This thing here.
It's like a little quick access
These guys
thing,
here.
right?
These are your charms right here. See it? Right here.
I still hate it. I don't even know how to get rid of it. I want to get rid of it. I want to go back to where it was, where when I search for something, it doesn't search online first.
We're here because you're clicking here. Don't click here. Just hit the start button and start typing.
No, I do that, but sometimes it still searches online, even though I told it not to do that.
Well, look. It should, if you don't go straight to the search to go into the internet, it should go directly both web and it'll give you an app that's in your computer.
Yeah, it gives me both, but for some weird reason, it goes to the internet first a lot. And I'm like, I just want to go to Chrome, and then it makes me use Internet Explorer. I'm like, no. All right.
I have the same issue.
I just don't like the feature.
I don't like any of the Windows 8 features at all. I think it was the worst thing they ever came up with. Taskbar and notification area. What's the taskbar and notification area?
The bar that's usually on the bottom, and the notification area is on the bottom right, and it tells you stuff about your drivers, date, time, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the notification area will be here. So let's say, it's on my other one over here. It usually has like a little, what do you call that? The caret little upwards arrow next to it, and it'll have a whole bunch of icons in there. If you have any notification, it comes out in there, including obviously if you have, for instance, your antivirus will show up in there with stuff. Maybe your Wi-Fi might be condensed in there with its status, depending on how small or big that area is. Any questions? And lastly, personalization. Anyone?
You're able to put what programs you want on a desktop. You could delete what you want. It's totally customizable what you want on your computer.
You can change like even the colors of stuff.
Yeah.
Fonts.
Here's my personalization. Like you said, I can change the background color if I want it to be purple, but obviously I'm locked out of my PC. I don't have that type of option. You can choose what's in the lockup screen, the themes, all that stuff with ease. If obviously if you're not locked out like I am, you'll be able to go and turn it off all those features. Any questions or doubts on these 7? Okay, your Windows desktop. As we said, here's your desktop. You got your icons here. You have your start button, your pin programs, your overall taskbar and notification areas in the system tray. Any questions on the visual representation of all of this? I believe that's even arrow up there, right? Yeah. Look at arrow right there. You see how it's like transparent? I could see the clouds. Although it's gray, but I could see the clouds through it. You see how the colors change? That's your arrow look. Yeah, because that cost buku bucks there. I have no idea why they even came up with it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Next. Lázaro, if you can help me out with this slide, please.
Do you guys hear any feedback? Because I got a lot of noise going on.
Nope.
All right. Windows 8 and 8.1 desktop, 3 out of 4. In both Windows 8 and 8.1, the user interface is different from earlier versions of Windows. You don't say. The start menu was removed and the desktop replaced with a new look called Metro UI. The look and feel of the desktop was designed to resemble that of a mobile device. Well, they did complete that, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. If that was their goal, I got them there. Yep, I would have to totally agree with them. Because the thing is, they truly believe at that time that pretty much everything was going to become touchscreen. Even if Windows becomes touchscreen, who in the world is going to be the whole day just touching their screen just to get around? Nobody's going to be doing that. Everybody's used to, I mean, even when the mouse came out, I still don't use the mouse as much as I use the keyboard. I know all my short keys. I can actually come in here and go from one window to another. I can alt escape. I can do anything I want without using the actual mouse. Because I'm used to all those key combinations, let alone now you're going to give me the only choice that I have is then start hitting all these stupid buttons just to find a program. I still remember the first time I installed a program on Windows 8, I felt like killing or throwing the laptop across the window because I couldn't find the stupid icon. I had to scroll God only knows where. Anybody know where? Because it took me a while.
Oh, I freaking
down here. I don't know if you guys knew it was actually down here below it. I'm here trying to scroll sideways, and it was actually down here, and in an alphabetical order, all the programs would come out on the list on the bottom. You have to like scroll to the bottom, from what I remember. Next, Windows 10 came back with vengeance and brought back our great start menu. But at the same time, if you notice, some of the features of Windows 8 still stayed behind. They still have that look and feel here of those icons. But instead of being hidden, this exact same menu that I'm telling you, obviously was down there in that GUI that I'm talking about. You would have to scroll the window up like that so you can get to the list of the alphabetical order. So this little alphabetical order, you see how you have A, B, C. This was actually down there, hidden. You had to scroll up the menu to bring that A, B, C, D up. Any questions or doubts on a Windows 10 desktop?
Does it have like a name like the other ones, or
The
like
only
the?
a funky name would be the only one, Windows 8 Metro UI.
Okay.
I'm not aware of this one having any funky name. If anybody is aware of it, please feel free to shout it out now and correct me. But I'm not aware of any.
Cortana.
Cortana is a search tool, isn't it?
I know, but it's kind of like the whole thing where Microsoft's like, use Cortana, and then usually Cortana is always associated with the start button. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's related to that as its own feature.
Yeah. No, I mean I know I know it's a virtual assistant because I use it in Xbox, and obviously that's where I know where it came from. Cortana actually came from the Xbox, so it's anybody know who Cortana really is?
Yeah, she's from a video game from Halo.
Yeah.
It's Master Chief's best bud.
Yeah, that's who she is. And leave it to Microsoft to go and just bring their own game and just hang their hat on the game and bring it in here. So you have Cortana now as part of your operating system. That's probably, I think that was their challenge to what's her face? What's her name that everybody started making fun of in Apple?
Siri.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Remember when they had a whole bunch of sitcoms with Siri, where she's like a girl for real? You guys ever seen that one? Or Google when Google's a guy or something like that? We'll do it on the break. Talking about the break. I'll see you guys in 15 minutes. Let me pause it here. The start button and menu. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen it and is aware of it. We've mentioned it many of times. It is our button to the world of Windows. It gives us all of our applications. We can search. We can shut down the system. We can put it on sleep. We can put it to restart. All those features just with one little button. Any questions on the Windows button itself and its use?
Yeah.
Look kind of skinny there. Dying of hunger. Any questions? Doubts? Next one. As we mentioned, pinning and unpinning. That's obviously to make it very easy access for the ones that we usually use a lot. Users like to pin their programs down to their actual one. As you see here, I have this one pinned. I have Explorer. No, actually, I have Chrome pinned here to my taskbar so that I could be able to, with ease, without having to go search for it in the start menu, I can actually have it right there just to press the button. Any questions or doubts on that? On pinning and unpinning to either the start or the taskbar. Next, our gadgets. As I stated before, you had your clock, you had your CPU meter, you have your currency, stocks. All these are little gadgets that were available in Windows 7. Obviously, unfortunately, it ate up a lot of resources. So they basically said after 2011, we're not supporting this anymore. Or uploading any new widgets for Windows. Any questions on these mini programs and their use? Show me the money, according to Pablo.
That's a great cheat code.
Here's Arrow. Next slide. Arrow interface offers a glass design, as we said. It lets you see through the actual bar up here of the window. You can see through it. Not sure how much that feature would help you, but it's cute to say the least. Any questions on arrow interface?
What's to help you identify what window is active?
You guys do realize that usually the one that's active, at least back in the day, one was darker and the other one's lighter.
Yeah, I know, but I guess that's like a style of it.
It was just, I'm telling you, that's somebody that was bored and say, hey, you know, we can make this see-through. Oh, that's awesome. That's the only thing I can say about it. There's not much you can do with it. Taskbar notification area. As we said, the taskbar is the bar on the bottom of your windows. Usually you could move this taskbar. I don't know if you guys are actually familiar, but I could actually move it over here. I can move it over there, move it over here, there, wherever I want. Either up here, the side, or down here. With ease, just by unlocking and locking the actual toolbar. You have the quick launch, which are the ones that are here in this area. You have the window where all the ones that are open, and lastly, your notification area, which is all the way to the right. Any questions on the taskbar or notification area? Next one, Windows Desktop Personalization. Windows personalization, as we stated, the one that lets me go and create what themes I have, if I have a screensaver or not, what color, all that features are right here within the Windows personalization. Allows the user to have his own look and feel for their specific windows. If they want it all in orange, they can have it all in orange. All depends on what your favorite color is. Questions or doubts in Windows Desktop Personalization? Windows Explorer. I'm not sure if you guys knew it used to be called Fire Explorer, and then somehow they just wanted to change the name and be different. Now it's called Windows Explorer. It allows you to, with ease, access all files in your actual computer and or any other libraries that you may have access to. Questions on the Windows Explorer? Doubts? So can I use
So wait, currently it's called File Explorer now.
Windows Explorer?
So it's Windows Explorer now.
Yeah, it was Windows Explorer. Now it was renamed File Explorer with the release of Windows 8. Correct.
So currently it's File Explorer.
Yeah, still the same guy.
All right. That's it.
Can I actually use the Windows Explorer to go to the internet?
No.
If you like if you open up the
Here's our File Explorer, and that's my Internet Explorer out there. Can I cut here and go type google.com?
no.
Oops. Maybe I'll learn how to type today. That is correct. I shouldn't be able to go to Google. That is not an Internet Explorer. If anything, it may just wind up opening the Internet Explorer for you. But it won't open it up inside the File Explorer. Questions? Doubts? So what can I search for besides in my computer? What else can I search for in through here? Anyone?
Files.
I'm sorry?
Program files.
Okay. But besides my computer, is there anything else that I can do through here?
Oh,
Besides seeing things on my computer, program files, different folders, is there anything else I can do in that screen to navigate to? we said we can't go to the internet through there, but is there anybody else that I can go to?
Terminal.
You should be able to FTP through here. File transfer protocol, TFTP through here, if the server has it open. Another thing you can do is actually navigate to any other PC. You can pipe to the PC. For instance, we'll look at my computer here. I'm just going to try to connect to myself. I got to get the humongous long name because God only knows they couldn't put this any easier. Give me a second. So, for instance, if this happened to be a PC that was on my network, I can get the fully qualified domain name of that PC. Go here, see $, and $sign means that it's a hidden share. Now I have gone through the network. Look at it right there. It says network. This PC, you're in the C $sign folder. And I can navigate to the other PC if this was obviously an actual other PC. But it is going through the network to get to the PC. So I can get to servers, I can get to other PCs, I can get to printers and connect to printers through that if they are in my domain on a print server. Any questions or doubts on the Window Explorer? File structures. Pablo, if you could help us out reading this one.
All right. So the users are authenticated through a user account, which will then provide their computer settings called a user profile. The set of files and directories in each user profile will be specific to that user, while system files will be the same from user profile to user profile. Okay, you left me.
Sorry, I'm trying to bring the other thing that you're talking about. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Should be back up.
File information, file naming. There are two parts to a file name. The main part identifies the contents of the file, and the extensions identify the file type. File names have maximum allowed characters of 255, including spaces. Special characters are not allowed. File extension. This is what tells the OS what type of file it is so that the associated program will open it. It is the last characters following the period in the file, such as .docs, .xe, .zip, or text. Path. This is where the file lives in the directory. Example. Blah, 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 blah.
Correct. So what they were talking about earlier is that if you'll see here, in this PC, the Windows operating system, the program files is the same for everybody. But the users, there's a users for the administrator, there's one for the account that I use, and then there's a public one where everybody gets to share everything. So in here, each individual has their own desktop. Each individual has their own documents, downloads, favorites, folders. All these pertain specifically to that one user. Any questions or doubts on the naming convention, file extension, path, or users itself and the user profile?
For the special characters, are those reserved characters, and are they using similar to Bash language?
You can't use those characters for naming a file. Windows will not let you use those characters. For instance, this one right here is what?
That's a /.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's used where?
That's for putting a command line. usually separates the command line or pathway. I know Windows uses backslash mostly for pathways.
Exactly. This one though you're talking about is the Linux one that goes forward. Windows uses the backslash. The forward slash is used a lot inside the Internet Explorer though. Either which
Internet
way,
Explorer?
they will not let,
Internet Explorer or Windows Explorer?
Internet Explorer. And any website uses this. See? https calendar.google.com/calendar/r customs.
I find it so weird that Windows is using backslash instead of forward slash.
You gotta be different, man. What do you mean? Should be used to that. We do everything
No,
different.
no, we don't need another
Even their
app.
close button is backwards, isn't it? Even their close button is backwards, because if you look at Mac, they stole this interface from Mac. Originally, the Windows in Macs, and I believe it still is, the first button here on the left is the red button to close. Correct, Pablo?
Yeah, it's on the left.
Not on the right.
Yeah, it's on the left. Mm-hmm.
So it's completely different. They just like to be different. You guys understand what the file extension does then? Fair warning about this guy right here. You'll be surprised how many people will go beyond the maximum character. Don't ask me why. Can't see why you would name a file more than 255 characters. At the same time, if you go too deep in folders, when you're copying, although it will let you, when you're copying, let's say if you're gonna make or give them a brand new computer, and when you're copying and pasting it to the new one, it won't let you. The file structure is too long. Just a fair warning. Both the characters and or the amount of how far they go deep in folders could create an issue for them. Any questions, doubts? Directories. Jordan.
Directories give a hierarchical view of folders and files specified on the different drives available for that system. It is a method to organize the files in a meaningful way. It can be found in the Windows Explorer window. A folder that contains other files and folders located within a directory is a subdirectory.
Thank you. Any questions or doubts on a directory and or a subdirectory? We're okay? All right. OneDrive. DeAndre.
OneDrive. Windows Explorer may also list OneDrive as is. If it is an external drive, OneDrive is a cloud-based storage feature proprietary from Microsoft where users can store files to allow more space on the hard drive.
Thank you. Any questions or doubts on that one? None?
That's cool.
You guys used OneDrive before? Pretty self-explanatory. It's just a cloud base, right?
Yes.
All right. Next slide. Changing your Explorer settings. Justin.
Changing Explorer settings. The toolbar in Windows Explorer contains many options located in the Organization tab, including changing the layout and the folder and search options. The folder and search options has 3 tabs: General, View, and Search. General allows changing from double-clicking a file to open it to single-click, and changing the navigation pane and how browsing folders should appear. View. This tab has advanced settings specifically related files and folders and how they appear, including showing hidden files and folders. There is also an option to reset to default settings. Search gives specifics to how the user wants to search for a file or folder.
Okay. Any questions or doubts? We're okay? You sure? Okay. Managing files and folders. Obviously here, creating and changing a file or folder attributes can be accomplished just by right-clicking here and selecting properties. As you guys saw me earlier, I went into my actual folders, so you can go into a specific file and click on the properties of that file or folder. You should have the abilities, to see the actual properties of that. You have your security, your details in here, and provisioning versions if you have provisioning turned on. Within here, obviously, you have the general tabs under properties that made to the file's name. You can actually change the file name if you feel like it from that little window. You could also specify in the advanced settings here, you can go in here and set it up if it's going to be backed up or not. The archive bit would be in there. Or if it's read only or hidden, all from when this is window. Any questions or doubts? I go to my general tab, I can actually change from here who will open up the program. I can change the name of the file if I feel like it. And as I stated, read only or hidden. Lastly, as I said, you can set the archive bit. If you have this off, it will not archive it the next time you have a backup. That's what the archive bit does. The question on the general tabs. So what does it mean read only? If I come in here and I put read only.
It's
And that's
just
what
that
check.
read only.
Yeah,
You can't make modifications. Now that I think of it, I have a question. I know in Linux you can use it as read only with no executable. In Windows, when you put read mode, is it still executable or only read mode? As in just literally just read.
An executable?
Yeah.
Here I set that one into being read only. Still runs.
Okay, so it is executable too. Got it.
Read only is what you said. It won't allow you to actually change the file. So there's nothing I'm going to be changing in this executable within Windows. Any questions, doubts? Managing your files, the security tab is to assign permissions to the specific groups or users designated who can access, edit, modify, read, and write. Your details tab is for more information related to the actual and remove personal information of a specific file. And previous versionings is only if you actually have versionings turned on. Does anybody know what versionings mean?
No.
If you actually have versionings on, you got to be very careful with that feature. What happens is it saves an identical copy of that actual file. Let me find the file here. Edit. So if I could turn it on, obviously there is none here. I can turn it on, and then you'll see who was the last person or the different versions that there is of that exact same file and the date that it was modified. So let's say somebody went in there and by mistake deleted a whole bunch of lines in an Excel sheet, and I know that it was there the day before. I can come over here, I can open it or restore it, depending on what I want to do with it, and it'll bring back that file instead of the one that was right now there. That's
So
what.
why do you have to be careful about it? Does it take a lot of data?
Oh yeah, every time you have, every version is another replica. It's an identical replica. So if you have a 1 gig file and you start creating versionings, every version will be 1 gig big. It has to make an exact replica and hold it somewhere inside the drive so that if you want to be able to come back from that version, you can. A lot of the other servers that they had out there, which is SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint suffers from this because the users love to put versioning, and obviously that eats up disk space on that server for every single version. So let's say there was 20 people that edited the file, there'll be 20 copies of that file. If you have that many versioning on, because you could actually control how many versions before it starts overriding the previous versions. Questions or doubts? So let's look at this tab here that they were giving us. Here's our security tab. As I stated, you'll see the different groups. When it's a group, you'll see 2 little guys next to each other. That lets you know it is an actual group. Versus when it is a user, it's an icon with 1 little guy. You never want to give anyone full control of a folder or a system file. In this case, obviously, I do have full control because this is my Word document. But if I go into my Windows and I go to the actual C drive, I should not have full control. See? A regular user shouldn't. The system will have full control, obviously. So will the administrators group. But your users usually maybe modify, read, write, list folders, stuff like that, but never full control. Even if the person requires to do a lot of stuff in there, why is the reason I do not want to give them full control of a folder that they shouldn't be touching?
Least privilege. They may do something very wrong. They don't need to make modifications to it.
It's dangerous, right? They can take control of the folder, lock everyone out of it. The moment you give any user full control of something that they're not supposed to, is the most dangerous thing that can happen. They can even most likely lock out the system and administrators out of it because they have full control. Any questions? Doubts? Windows support tools overview. So the current versions of Windows only have these support tools available through downloading either an installation disk or through Microsoft's website. You have your management tools here, performance tools, deployment tools. This one gets used a lot, and planning tools. The planning tools are used obviously depending on if you're going to be like the upgrade advisor. It kind of tells you everything you need. Deployment tools help you deploy machines with the Microsoft deployment toolkit. Has anyone ever used any of these?
I think I've used Windows Application Compatibility Toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
And what else have I used? I use Windows XP mode. I use Windows Virtual PC. What else you have there that I may have used? And
Microsoft
definitely Windows
PowerShell.
PowerShell.
Yeah.
But wait, what do you mean by download? I mean, we already have it, right?
Not all. No. Not all these features are inside your computer.
Oh, okay.
All right. So virtual XP mode. Any questions? I'm sorry, before I go continue, any questions here on the support tools? Virtual XP mode. It's included in Windows 7 Enterprise and Ultimate. It basically lets you run Windows XP type programs in a Windows 7, Windows 8, or Windows 10 environment. Not sure if you guys ever seen that. No? Yes? Maybe?
I have a weird question. I know that they have the what is it called? Account controller, virtual. That's usually used to run XP programs, right?
I'm sorry, repeat it. It broke up on my side.
I have to write it down. Hold on. User account controller. Okay, user account controller, UAC. To run programs in XP, you just need to use the UAC virtualization, right?
UAC is this. I'm not sure if user account is the one that if it's going to ask you when it goes and it's going to do something. So what happens is, like, let's say if you download some type of Trojan or something, usually you want this guy up somewhere over here where he's notifying, not all the way down here where he starts asking, are you sure? And if you're going to install something, he says, are you sure? And he asks you sometimes for credentials. Depending on the level of the UAC is where it will control what can or cannot be done when you're installing new software or even visiting unfamiliar websites. That's what UAC is.
So what's the purpose of UAC virtual?
UAC virtual, wouldn't it be for virtual?
I know it's used with XP though, because I know that there are certain programs that you need to have the virtual UAC to even install it, because there's certain different types of permissions that are required that are different from the newer versions of Windows.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the virtualization one. Is like you're saying, is to assist you with the compatibility for applications that were developed prior to Windows 7. Any other question on it? Doubts? Okay. Wet. Leave these people. Windows Easy Transfer. This feature was used to migrate a few accounts of Windows Vista to Windows 7 or Windows 7 to 8.1. However, to migrate to Windows 10, you must use the user state migration tool that they showed us earlier. This doesn't work anymore on the new version. It does everything. It will transfer your accounts, which is very, very critical, your folders and files, and the settings of the user. It would actually migrate the whole user's profile over versus you having them log on to the new computer, copy and pasting all those files, and risking that they might not even have access to their own files. Sometimes, if you do it the wrong way, especially if some people that tend to do things, it kind of moves it with its existing. A lot of people like to move instead of copy, and that's a dangerous thing. Any questions? Doubts? System restore. This is our friend. It only works if we actually have it turned on. You need to be able to create a restore point. If you ever get hit by a very bad virus or something's gone completely wrong, this will save you. You should be able to boot up and restore from a previous known good boot, is what it's called. Any questions? Doubts? We mentioned earlier 32 versus 64-bit. We can have Alexa help me out here with this one.
32-bit and 64-bit is a determinant for the amount of data the processor CPU can process effectively. To run a 64-bit version of the operating system, a 64-bit processor must be part of system architecture, and in most cases, it can also run 32-bit versions. If the system architecture is 32-bit, it will not run 64-bit operating systems or application programs. Another main difference between 32-bit and 64-bit is in how much memory it can recognize and use. 32-bit systems can only use up to 4 gigabytes of memory, and installing anything more will go unused and unrecognized. The basic information about the computer is shown in the system applet in the control panel. It shows what version of the OS is installed, and as well as the computer name, activation status, and system index rating.
Thank you. Any questions on the 32 versus 64? Security Action Center. The Action Center is inside the actual control panel, or also can be accessed from the actual notification tray. As I said, here goes here a little flag where it tells you that there's an action of something that they want you to look at. If the flag comes out, you should be able to click on it, and it will take you to the actual issue that it has found. Any questions? The Action Center is included in all current versions. Its main function is to inform, hence the flag, when there is a security or a maintenance issue with the actual computer. Doubts? Continuation, your security center rolled into the Action Center in Windows 7. The Security Center interface shows the status of and allows you to configure your firewall, your Windows update, virus protection, spyware, and unwanted software protection, internet security, your UAC settings, and your network access protection, all from one location. Any questions on the Security Center? What's the Security Center called nowadays? Anybody? Anybody know the name of the Security Center now?
Defender?
Windows Defender, correct. Security Center. Your UAC, as I said, it's intended to prevent unintentional or unauthorized changes to your computer. This is Microsoft's solution to their flaw. They have so many backdoors available in this system that unfortunately, even with the bounties that they have out there for people to give them all these backdoors, obviously they cannot stop all these hackers from coming up with stuff. So this UAC is intended to obviously, if in the background, somehow, somewhere, something tries to install something, if you have it as strict as possible, it should automatically give you that little gray window saying, hey, you sure you want to do this? And that's usually when people freak out and say, no, I never asked for that. So that's the variance between one or the other. I'll show you now. I just raised my thing all the way up. And let me see if I can try to install again one of these apps that we saw earlier here that I had. What was it? Downloads. I think I had an app. Here we are. Let's try running this guy. As you see, right away, instead of installing, I get this message impeding me from actually installing. And it even tells you, hey, this is what's running right now. Are you sure you want to? You want to see his certificate? Are you sure this thing is good enough to be installed here? That's what UAC does. So fair warning, do not lower that unless if you know what you're doing and you are 100% sure that you or no one else that's going to use your computer will be downloading any Trojans or any type of spyware that may cause this in the back end. Any questions or doubts on my UAC? Windows Firewall, now called Windows Defender Firewall, because God only knows, has to have that extra word in there, is obviously made to stop incoming and outgoing traffic. It is the first implemented in Windows Vista and has been in every version since. The advanced settings allows you to actually create your own rules for your actual PC. This would be your own internal firewall for your specific PC. You can choose what can and cannot happen. Any questions or doubts on the Windows Defender Firewall? Nobody? Everybody's masters on Windows, it looks like.
It seems pretty
You sure it sounds easy? So you guys will be able to come in here and set inbound rules, outbound rules, and understand anything in here?
I do mostly.
No, but I mean, can we go over that?
Do we understand what a firewall does?
Yes.
So it's going to enable or disable ports and or stuff from happening. You can create your own rule depending how sophisticated you are for a specific program or a port. Let's say I wanted a port. Hit next, say TCP, which ports? I want to block port 80. Sorry, excuse me. Morning, Diego speaking. Oh, apparently you guys, should I press 1? It looks like I got a free trip to where? Disney. Anybody need 4 tickets to Disney?
Yeah, you just probably have to submit your own number.
Don't forget the credit card.
Bing it. I guess not. All right, so here now, my rule is TCP, and I'm saying specified 480. I can allow, block, allow this connection to be secured. All this are features as if it was an actual firewall. Now here I can say, is it only for people that are in my domain, private network, or even public people? So I could actually say, hey, no, only the private and my domain can actually get into it. In other words, my intranet, right? I hit next, and now I can name it. And I hit finish. It'll create that actual inbound rule of any connection that's coming in through port 80 to my computer. Same thing with outbound rules. Create outbound rules, same thing. Create a new one, and you can decide what is it you want to create and the rule to control. Does that help? What it does? Doubts?
Well, I missed most of it.
Oh, you got disconnected?
Well, my laptop shuts off at half battery, so
Ooh, nice.
yeah.
Okay. So basically the Windows Defender firewall is what I was saying is an internal firewall. So you can actually create your own rules for all inbound traffic and all outbound traffic of your actual computer. Specifically, you could even control what softwares can do certain things. For instance, I can take this guy out here, remote mouse, and then when I was using my iPad as a remote mouse, because I had lost my mouse, if I go and try to use that application again, I will not be able to use the app because now I removed the inbound rule. That application is not going to be allowed to be able to connect into my computer. Specifically in here, we said also you could actually control not only the actual programs, but you can actually go by port. So you can go by program port, predefined, if you have a predefined actual, for instance, remote desktop, or a specific program, or a specific port. You can say what is it that you want and how you want it. It can allow or disallow whatever port you want. And in this case, it's an inbound rule, so it's all inbound traffic, allow connection, or I can block the connection. So if anybody tries to come in via port 80, it'll basically do that. Question? Doubts? All right. Windows Defender. It's a free, I love this, anti-malware program included with Windows 7, Windows 8, up to Windows 10. Originally an anti-spyware program, but in Windows 8, it upgraded, include antivirus. So what's the difference from anti-spyware and antivirus?
Well, technically speaking, there is no difference unless you're talking about the actual payload. Antivirus spyware will literally spy on what you're doing. Antivirus is basically the traditional virus that usually you have to be a user to interact with that virus to do its payload.
Well, spyware only spies. That's what spyware is. They're both malware. The variance is viruses, as you say, have a payload. Virus must have a payload to do some sort of damage or something to your computer. Spyware only spies and reports. It may have a keylogger in it or some other features, but its main intention is that. The other one is adware, right? There's a whole different types of malware out there, but this guy, his main purpose is for anti-spyware and antivirus. I wouldn't trust it with my own worst enemy. In other words, don't trust Windows to be the all-do-all for these features. I assure you, they're not going to be as robust as Norton or any of these other high-end anti-malware programs that they're out there. Now it's called anti-malware, not antivirus anymore, because it's on all-in-one. You used to have to purchase all these different programs separate, the anti-spyware, anti-adware, and antivirus. Now it's all inclusive and it's called anti-malware because obviously it does something malice to your computer. Questions on Windows Defender and how useless, I mean, how great it is.
So
Obviously,
it's not really that good.
I wouldn't trust it. I'm just being as truthful as possible, man. Windows is Windows, right? So is like I tell my kids, if I go to a seafood place, I'm not ordering the chicken. I'm not gonna order steak. Just doesn't make sense, right? If I go to an ice cream place, am I gonna have those waffles with eggs or whatever it is that they have some weird thing in there? No, I'm gonna order ice cream. Stick to what you know, right? So in this case, Windows, what they know is PC. They surely, that I'm aware of, are not professionals in reference to anti-malware. This is obviously a good first level defense. I'm not gonna kill it as it doesn't do anything, but I can tell you, compared to any of the other actual softwares that are out there, these guys are not gonna be as much as them. Any questions? Event Viewer. It's a comprehensive error and information log viewing feature. The event viewer can track events when logged on with an administrator. The administrator keyword. It won't let anybody see that information except for an administrator, because as you can see, it will give you certain details in there that users shouldn't be seeing. Any questions, doubts on the event viewer? Sure. So why would I look in here? Why would I look in here?
Well,
To see maybe when something went wrong.
I'm sorry?
Possibly to see when something has gone wrong. Like if it keeps a log of everything that's going on, then you can track down possibly when, like, during which process did an error come about.
Exactly. So if you know something weird happened or something, it'll even tell you when stuff was installed. It'll start saying if somebody's pounding that server, trying to get in with a user ID, you could actually see those security audits, and you'll see here how it says warning. It has an exclamation mark, and then there's one with an I for information. So it actually color codes it with little icons for you to make it easier for you to be able to, with ease, determine what is an actual issue. The white eye is information, and then the exclamation mark is some type of error or major event that you're looking at. You have the top one here, although you can't read it very well, is applications. So if I want to look at all the events that deal with applications, I go to that log. If I want to go to the next one here, that's security, if I can read it right. Jesus, that's a little bit smaller. Security is obviously all the stuff that has to do with actual security stuff that's happening with the Windows OS. The next one is the system, so the actual OS. It'll tell you all the errors and or information in there. And lastly is the forward events. Questions or doubts? Okay. Okay. Next slide, Ready Boost. Woohoo! This feature is available in Windows 7, 8, 8.1, and 10. Allows you to use the free space on a removable drive. Key thing here, USB or removable drive, right? To speed up the system by caching content, and is used when you are running low on actual memory. Obviously, it's not going to use that first. We all agree that if I have to go to the South Bridge to go and use memory, it's going to be slower than using the internal memory. So this is obviously just a solution so that if you are, or you don't have enough memory and don't feel like purchasing extra memory, this is Windows solution for you. You can actually use a USB, flash memory, SD, compact flash, any of these with ease and deploy Ready Boost onto it. Key thing, obviously, you'll notice Windows 7, each needing 256 megabytes free on the actual stick. Questions? Doubts? On Ready Boost. Next slide. Windows 8, 8.1 specific features. Daniel.
Windows 8 and 8.1 specific features. Windows 8.1 made running the OS without a touchscreen easier and brought back the start button. Windows Store, since the GUI of Windows 8 is arranged through a series of apps, the Windows Store is where new apps could be purchased or are available for free. Multi-monitor taskbar. This addition seen in Windows 8 allows the taskbar to be visible when multiple monitors are being used. Previously, the taskbar would only be seen on the main computer.
Right.
Microsoft Live Sign-In. This version of Windows required a MS Live login, which is a free account used to interact with MS. In its simplest function, it can synchronize the desktop and data between devices. The downfall of this is that it requires an internet connection to authenticate, and side-by-side app, Windows 8.1 allows to run a Metro application and desktop application at the same time, or up to 4 Metro apps at the same time.
Thank you. Any questions on the Windows 8.1 and why it came out? Windows Store. None of these? Everybody okay? As we saw, Microsoft Live Sign-In was one of the worst things they ever came up with. You could see that the moment you can't get onto the network, it doesn't have a cached information of your ID and password. Therefore, you get locked out of your actual computer if you can't get onto the internet. Great feature. Awesome. Secure. It's one way to lock yourself out. Any questions or doubts? Windows 10 specific features. You have your app blocker, branch cache, and direct access. Christina, if you could help us out with this slide.
Windows 10 specific features. App Blocker allows for policies to be created in Group Policy to control the access to applications. Branch Cache is a Microsoft client/server technology that allows for caching of commonly accessed files at branch office locations. Direct Access provides a method of an automatic connection for a virtual private network VPN between the client and a main office.
Mm-hmm. Any questions? Doubts?
I have a question about the last slide, the side-by-side app.
The last slide before.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last point on it.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean I'm confused by at the same time, like multiple windows open? Is that what it means, or?
Well, a Metro application, you know what that is?
I know it's for like Windows 8.1, but what specifically? What kind of app?
It's like when let's see.
That when you have like 2 screens in your screen and you could do multitasking.
No, because see, Windows 8 before, if you open up a Metro app, you were stuck with that GUI interface up and running on the front end. Here, you could actually put it and split the screen into 2, where you can put one here and one here. And on top of it, it also allowed 4 Metro apps to be running at the same time versus just stuck with that one app at a time. I don't think I have any Metro apps on this thing that I'm aware of.
So, did Windows 7 have that, or?
There was no Metro apps.
Oh, so it's just referring to Metro apps, so you could do more than 4 or up to 4.
Yeah.
It's not like having 2 like windows open. That's not what it's talking about, right?
No. Because that's been around for a while, no?
Yeah, that's why I was confused by side by side. Because I thought you could do that forever, like from the beginning of time.
Yeah. Any questions or doubts? I'm not sure if Windows 7 had it though. I'm trying to think. I don't think Windows 7 had it. Somebody has Windows 7. Oh, actually, we do. I think I have it in my virtual machine. We can test it this afternoon. Obviously, it didn't have the Metro apps, but I'm just trying to think if you could put side by side 2 programs inside Windows 7. With the snapping thing is what I'm talking about. I know that you could like put 2 like windows and size it yourself, but the snapping thing, this little thing, where like snap.
Okay. That's why I was confused. Is like the 2 windows or it's just a snap feature?
Mm-hmm. I don't think the old one. I'm looking it up, and I don't think it'll look. You have to resize as required compared to tiles in the new one. Any other questions? Slides. All right. Here comes our exit ticket. Number 1. Justin. You can read it. And if we can vote right after.
Which part of Windows display shows information about open programs and provides quick access to others? I put B, the taskbar.
Okay. Everyone agree? Taskbar?
I agree.
All right. Yeah, we had aerial snap. That's not going to do anything. Notification area. We said that just notifies us with those little things. And properties is surely not what we're looking for. I would have to agree. Next one. Teresa. Number 2. I think you're on mute, Teresa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Which part of the path to a file indicates how the file is organized or formatted? I'm gonna go with B. Well, no. Organized and formatted.
Which part of a file will tell you how the file is formatted so that it knows what it is?
I think it then I have to be the file extension.
Okay. Everyone agree? File extension?
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, we learned that .exe, .xls, .docx, anything after the dot allows Windows to associate a program to it. Without that dot extension, then obviously he will be completely lost. Example. If I come in here and I rename this guy to any other name, this is not going to let me edit.
You can't see your screen.
All right, bringing it up now. Once again, extensions. Here we are. Sharing my screen. Can you see it now?
Yep.
All right. So if I come in here and I rename this file and I just put PD and I hit yes, automatically now it thinks it's not a PDF. Same exact file. All I did was just change the extension. And now I could actually say, hey, go ahead, try this guy, see if this guy works. When he opens it up, if he's able to read it, it will open up the actual file. Otherwise, it won't recognize it. Any questions, doubts on file extensions? You notice it's not case sensitive. Okay. Next question. Alexa.
Which Windows utility program lists errors and issues that need attention? I put A, Action Center.
Okay, everyone agree?
Yes.
Yes, the Action Center compared to the control panel, control panel, if I can enunciate today, systems information windows, that's not it, and networking sharing center surely is not it. It's not going to give you the list of errors and issues that need attention. Next one, which of the following is an attribute that can be set on folders or files in Windows? Which is an attribute? You remember what an attribute is?
The file name?
Okay. Any other thing? Any other one? So far, we got to vote for file name. It was a little bit unsure.
I agree on file name.
Okay. Yes, it is the file name that can be set on folders or files in Windows. That's the attribute that you can change. What's another attribute that I can change? Read only, hidden, right? If it's compressed, if it's going to be archived, if it's encrypted, all those are attributes that I can do to the actual thing. If I look on the Generals tab, you'll see all the attributes you have, and you have an advanced button in there. Any questions or doubts on attributes? Number 5. Carlos, can you read it for us, please? I can't hear you.
A blank is a convenient way. Wait, give me 1 second. A blank is a convenient way to access several folders in different locations from one central location. Library.
Everyone agree? No? Yes? Anytime now. Yes, no, maybe, so.
I'm unsure, so I don't.
Yeah, I'm also unsure.
Okay, let's look at the first one. Would a directory give me access to several folders in different locations from one central location?
I think it's D.
Hmm?
I think
What is a
it's D.
directory?
Well, a directory is like a list of things.
Okay. What's a library?
Like a lot of files and things, almost similar to a directory.
put a
Let's
bunch
look.
of files in a folder, but
I think it's
But-
settings because it's just one central location. So like you just go to settings tab and then you can access different locations from one central location.
But settings only set your settings.
you can't really get files from different locations in a library because that library, right? I might have.
Oh, okay, I get it. I know exactly what it is then. It's a root directory.
The
All
root
of those
directory will
files
be
have
my
to be in
C.
that one.
What happens if I want to go to D?
Oh. A directory.
A directory would be Windows. C Windows is a directory.
So it's a library.
That is correct. The library is where you have access to, if you remember, you have like desktop, documents. I think it's now called this PC instead of library in the new Windows. Yeah, it's called this PC in the new Windows. Let me share. Or as you can see, this folder view here shows I have a quick access library. I have my OneDrive here. I have this PC. I have my network that I can get to with ease without having to.
Your screen isn't changing.
No? Let me try again.
There we go.
I can go in here. You see, look, there's 2 X+1s. I can go in my thing. These are all easy access to libraries that I have.
Oh, I got libraries and folders confused. That's why I didn't get there. There you go. Now I understand.
Not a problem. Any other questions or doubts? Number 5. No? All right. Be stopping here the record.